how the story ends. We are some hippies, these are my friends. Come along with me, see how the story ends.
Welcome back to another episode of the Professional Hippies, folks. Fourth time's a charm, but we made it. We're back here for you. How you feeling, buddy?
Any better, there'd be three of me, son. Let me tell you. No, I'm doing great,
I don't know
buddy.
if I could handle 3 more of those glasses. Those are pretty sick.
I don't know. It depends where you're at and what time of the day, I suppose. You might see something. But no, I'm doing great, man. This week has been, I'd say the last 2 weeks, maybe 3, have been some of the more insightful weeks in my life. I'm not going to say most, but definitely something to be said for the weight of your existence coming down and bearing on your shoulders pretty square. So
Yeah?
Here we are,
sounds
man.
like you had some pretty big life things go on, it sounds like.
Well, I think like one of the, when you're going through some shit and other people are going through their own shit, you have an ability to step out of your own box, give some wisdom that you've earned to someone else. Like that really helps your own journey sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? Like makes your shit seem small. And I've had some examples of that. But before we get into that, hey, by the way, welcome to an episode of Professional Hippies. If you don't know us or follow us, feel free to follow along on our journey. We like to bridge the gap between professionalism, hippie woo-woo, you know, some of that meaty middle. But yeah, man, so just a couple big transitions and conversations happening this week, last week. And
When you run into people where you see, when you find like, oh yeah, my problem's pretty small, you're like, oh, thank God I found someone with bigger problems than me.
For sure.
Or
I mean,
you're like, oh, I was searching for you, someone with more problems than I do.
well, like I had a mentor explain this to me, like especially the Jim Rohn quote, like, don't wish life were easier, wish you were better. And a mentor expressed to me one time, like, hey man, if you're feeling really stressed, just ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, label that problem, right? Like, what is that problem for you? It feels like a 7 or an 8, right? And he goes, okay, then where are you at on the scale of 1 to 10? And what do you feel like as a person in that area? And so if you got like a level 7, 8 problem, but you feel like a level 5 or 6 person, that's a pretty big problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now if you're a level 7 or 8 person, 8 or 9 person, that level 7 or 8 problem really just becomes a minor inconvenience, right? So like your problems are proportional to your skill set and relative to where you're at. So the more you grow as a person, personally, professionally or otherwise, your problems tend to get bigger, but also shrink relative to that growth. So it's just a journey, you know?
What was it that you say, like, that everyone thinks as you start making more money and getting higher in your professionalism, they think your problems get easier, but really they just are changing. Your problems are just moving around, and they do become bigger. You just get better at handling them,
right,
as you go along. Like I think there is a couple of things I've read in some self-help books about it, but I'm sure there's a book about it out there where just like you practice every day at your skill set, you got to get practice at overcoming stress in your life, I guess. Like, oh yeah, you're taking out these small things first, work your way up to the big ones.
Make no doubt about it. I mean, having money definitely makes problems go away. You know, you get new problems.
A lot more other problems too.
Yeah, but it's like those are problems are a good thing. You know, if you don't have any problems, like certain types of stress are welcome in life. You know, like if you don't have stress, like the body's built for stress.
Like when you buy a home, you know, you put that stress on yourself. Now you have to take care of this whole house. Like, why get upset about it? You put this on yourself to take on the responsibility of this. That's the way I look at it sometimes, right? When I've got all these different things I'm working on the house, and then it'll get stressful, and I'll be like, oh no, like this is part of the process. This is what you wanted. This is when you sign that paperwork, this is what you were taking on right here.
Dude, and I felt that this weekend, man. I had to get out there. Did you see on Instagram cleaning the AC, how clogged up my AC was? I mean, my AC just been a
saw
bitch.
that.
Yeah.
I saw that. That was a new, that got me thinking about it.
Have you
Like,
cleaned your
maybe I
AC?
can do
Have you
that.
had your AC serviced? That's a thing.
I'm coming up on it this year. I'm going to do it because it was serviced right before I bought the house, so I gave myself a couple years before I figured out.
Mine was too. Thank God for having buddies in the just like handyman industry, because I've had 3 different people come out to my house to help me understand why my house just isn't cooling correctly. But basically, all 3 people, different problems, right? Now, cleaning your AC is just like cleaning the air filter in your car or truck. Like, it's something like everybody kind of knows about, whether or not you know how to do it, or you just get it done when you get it done routinely, whatever. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
The AC in your home, I didn't really know like that. I didn't know you're supposed to clean the motherfucker every 3 months. Right? Makes sense.
3 months? I thought it was like once a year, get that thing serviced.
Deep cleaned. Right. But if you just stay on top of it, if you just go out there with the water hose and just spray down the sides of the coils, you don't even have to take the thing off. Once you get it deep cleaned, serviced, you just go out there every 3 months and just wash it down. You're good. You're good.
Going out there today. I'm going to spray that sucker down.
Yeah, man. And so I take that off, and I posted it, and my buddy was like, holy shit, like that's what he does for a living. And he was like, man, you had 3 different companies come out there. Not a single one of them. Like, if you Googled, my house is hot, how do I fix it? That would probably be like one of the first 2 items to come up. Like, change your air filter, clean your AC unit. And they're like, no, you need a new compressor.
It.
Yeah, they're like $2,000.
Overcomplicating it.
I'm like, dude, get the fuck out. So you buy a house, like stuff like that, man. You just got to learn stuff like that.
That might be what's going on with my house. Like when it gets super hot out here in Florida, of course, the house was built in the 1950s. It's not the most, insulated house, but like I have a good air conditioned unit. I know I do. Yeah. So like once it gets to 90 outside, the temperature will jump up in my house probably to like 78 from where I like to keep it at 72, 73. And so maybe that's what's going on. I don't know.
Yeah, no telling, bro. I mean, it has been so hot out here. Like, I don't regret it, but I wish I would have known what, like, dude, we've had rain twice in 3 months, maybe 3 times.
I think think about when all the people started moving there. Ever since I think everyone started moving there over the past couple of years, there's been the massive freeze that happened in Texas that practically almost shut down the power grid. Then you've had all that heat out there. Now it's been dry. It's been like the trifecta of weather outliers that have been happening in Texas.
I'll say it. God hates hippies, man. I'll tell you. If there's one thing I can feel deep down in my bones, it's that. It's cool. I mean, it's just like, when it's unbearably hot like that, you really want to figure out what's going on with your AC. So, just like house
good practice
maintenance.
for Burning Man. Good practice for Burning Man. Just go outside, get that heat in.
Well, I also had to go up. I got these fucking rats. I got Ratatouille building a restaurant in my attic, and I keep killing members of the family. I don't know how to send a clear message to whoever's inviting the party going on up there. Like, I keep just murdering, just like no shame, no empathy, cutting these guys down. And I don't know where they're coming from, man. It's driving me crazy.
Oh, I bet you I could maybe tell you where they're coming from. The two spots. Do you have a tree leaning against your house at all?
Cut it down.
That's gone. Have you ever looked up underneath the siding of your house?
Yeah, it's not that. I think they're going up the gutters. I'll handle that. I mean, people don't come to this podcast for rat talk. I get it, man. I'll kill them. I got some stuff. I bought some stuff for them.
Maybe someone's out there having that same problem. They were looking to you for answers.
Well, I mean,
solve the chicken problem.
Scalping the motherfuckers and making it together in a hat's probably not the answer. So, I mean, if that's the route you're trying to go, if you're thinking about tanning rat hides and making them into a Johnny Appleseed hat, I don't know if that's your answer, but it is mine.
Someone out there was just like, that's a great idea.
Right? Never thought of it.
Never thought of that. I'm going to be breaking that next week.
Yeah.
You know what I'm excited about, though, is this whole Aaron Rodgers finding his way in life.
Dude, I was just thinking that. Get out of my head. Yeah, how crazy is that?
Isn't that wild? That opens up, I think, so many things for a lot of players.
Do you think is it going to be more of like the first gay man to come out in the NFL, or is it going to be like the floodgates of people being like, okay, I've been doing psychedelics too?
I think it's going to be the second one, and that it's going to be a way for players to start using it as a medicinal purpose. Because now the NFL ruled that it doesn't go against their drug policy.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
How would it, right?
Because it's not going to get picked up in anything. Yeah. And they made that statement. You know, he didn't. They said that we gave him a drug test once he announced he did this.
Yeah.
And so he passed it with flying colors. And so because of that, I think there's going to be a lot of players. You know, it's kind of like when you see the best person in your company doing something, you want to kind of go after them and do the same thing, right? So I think you're probably going to have a lot of players either coming out that they've already been doing it or go that direction to see what they're doing, right? Because you get to these older players that have been in football all their life, they're trying to transition to the next thing of what they want to do, and I think a lot of them are going to be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to see someone. I've been following Aaron since he started making appearances on the Pat McAfee show. I don't know if you ever watch him on there.
Oh, yeah.
But really insightful guy, and you can tell someone that just born leader. But what I love about that is I can't think of anything that fits more of a stereotypical mold than like an NFL player for a man, right? Like you got to be rugged, you got to be emotionless, you got to be a killer, you know, just go out there and kill what you eat, so to speak. And so some of the comments he was making, I still haven't watched actually the whole podcast. I've just been seeing clips and things like that of it. But from what I've seen, I mean, he's articulating it really well as far as the experience and препреsenting not just the benefits, but like what he had to go through to reap those benefits, right? And what that's playing out in his personal and professional life. And so,
yeah, I'm glad he's going about it, explaining it as a process.
Yeah.
He's not talking about it was like a one and done thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad he's really laying it out there. Like this wasn't an easy thing to do. Like there was work a little bit mentally for sure to go through this process to get to where I'm at.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of integration 101, right? And so just thinking of what it takes to be that elite as well at that level of any kind of competition or industry. I mean, the guy's, you know, he's a percentile of a percentile as far as elite is concerned. And so, yeah, him just putting that out there, I think, did that have anything to do with him when he was kind of like keeping the Packers at arm's length over his contract and stuff like that? Was that before that?
I'm sure.
Timing or?
No, that with the Packers, I think was before that, because I don't know if you remember, he kind of went on a little bit of a hiatus.
Is that when that happened, though? That's what I'm saying. Is that when you did the ayahuasca?
I think that's when that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes sense, dude. He's like, fuck the world. He's like, I got how many millions?
Yeah. And he was deciding, like, do I want to continue with this or not, or even continue with the Packers? And so I think him doing that opened up a way for players to help make decisions in life, though. You know, they get stuck and they're like looking for something to help. And that's what, I don't know who got him into that, but that sounded like a great way for him to figure that out. Did you see that tattoo he got on his forearm?
No.
It is wild.
Yeah.
It looks like someone that just took ayahuasca and they came back and immediately got
Dude,
a
they
tattoo.
recommend, like, that was one of the recommendations they give you is not to get a tattoo for like an extended amount of time until, or after your ceremony, until you've like fully integrated the process.
It definitely looks like he went against that.
I mean,
it's a sick tattoo though. He definitely got a good one.
I'm with him. I mean, some of those experience, like the owl still has not left me. Like I've wanted a chess piece of an eagle or an owl forever, man. And I mean, how long has it been? It's probably been 3-4 years since I went to the Amazon. And I was just thinking about that the other day.
Conor McGregor it? The big eagle on the chest?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a Conor McGregor thing, but because his is the tiger, right?
Oh, I thought he had something on his chest.
He does, yeah. I'm just trying to sound like I'm not a fanboy.
Maybe it's a tiger with wings.
Look, I mean, the front tattoo is fucking sick. It's just the whole spinal tramp stamp thing. And not to take anything away from Connor. I love the guy. It's just like, I don't know if having a bullwhip down your spine is the coolest thing to necessarily if you're going to get a tattoo.
Yeah, you got to be bold for that.
Yeah, you gotta,
for
You
sure.
got to be into stuff. There's some BDSM. Hey, when you went to Hawaii, you got any must recommendations? Did I tell you Abby bought me a trip to Hawaii?
No, that's awesome. Oahu. That's where we went. Yeah.
Oahu. And I don't know.
When are you going?
Here in 2 months. 2 months, yeah.
So you'll be in the winter time. Yeah. So I heard check out North Shore during the winter time.
Okay. Yeah.
That's when all the surfers go because that's when the biggest waves are happening. There is in the winter time on the North Shore.
Sick. Is the water cold?
Yeah. So they might. Yeah, it's pretty chilly.
Yeah.
You know, already.
Right.
It's kind of like you know how you step. You know how stepping into the Gulf and stepping into the Atlantic are definitely two different temperatures.
Yeah.
It's a little bit colder than the Atlantic.
Oh,
sure.
that's chilly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
yeah,
Gulf
so
kind of guy.
Yeah, me too. But it's definitely a little colder out there too because you're also getting. I mean, you're in the middle of nowhere.
Well, I didn't know what kind of currents they have coming around there, right? The reason I brought that up is because one of the tattoos I want to get when I'm there, I want to get one of the Polynesian tap tattoos.
Ooh,
Yeah, so
that'd be cool.
yeah, I was thinking a nice face tattoo. That'd be pretty sweet, right?
Right across, not both sides. You got to just do one side.
Oh, is it one side? Yeah, well, definitely down the nose, right? I think like symmetrically that make my nose.
That's definitely better than down the spine.
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. No, I've always wanted one of those. I mean, that was one of the things, like, when I went to Thailand, I went to Thailand for the tattoos, and I've always wanted to get a Polynesian tattoo. So I'm thinking I'll get that guy. And is it a thing where you can go to a tattoo shop and just request, like, pay for the drawing, and they do, like, the temporary stencil? How long does the temporary stencil last?
I don't know. I won't see why they wouldn't.
Like, there's got to be a way where I could get, like, a temporary tattoo and lay that bad boy
They have
out.
the ones for a year now, and then they just fade away.
Really? What's that about? I've never heard of that.
I think they're just not penetrating as deep, and so it just your body's able to chew up the ink or something. That's what I've heard. There's just a new way of doing it where these tattoos will only last a year, and it gives you if you want to keep it or not. And then some people, if they want to keep it, then they'll just tattoo.
Yeah,
over
that's pretty sick. That's pretty cool. Like a little bit more permanent version of henna.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing out there.
Do you have any tattoos
Which
yet?
I think it's pretty neat. No, not yet. I want to get one. I'm itching at something. But, I keep thinking, and I'll go down one path, and then I'll be like, no.
Right.
Like, we'll keep moving on
Yeah.
to something else.
My only thing is the money. Like, getting really good tattoos costs you money, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing is if I do it, I'm going to find whoever's the best. I'm not going to be like, I'm going to go up to the guy on the street. If this is where the celebrities are going, I'll book it a year out just to go pay it and fly to LA and get it done, whatever.
Yeah, I saw, the trend. Have you seen the really fine tattoos where it's like dot tattoos or like really, really crisp, fine lines? You ever seen any tattoos like that?
Kind of, yeah. I've seen probably one of the more crispier ones I've seen that's pretty cool is where they make it look like a badge is sewn on you. That one's pretty cool.
Yeah. So those turn to shit after a while, it turns out. Pretty disappointing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it depends on what part of the body, right? Like, so I've seen a couple that had like these cool temples on their hands and just anything basically around a lot of movement will make that ink spread, right?
That makes sense.
Breaks it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really drawn to that style, but after seeing like how it ages over time, I definitely want to get like that traditional Americana style on my chest. I've been wanting that for so long, but what inspired me is I saw a guy at my brotherhood workout the other day, and he had some cool kind of traditional, I don't know if that's what that's called, traditional Americana, but like the Pearl Harbor style tattoos, right? Like the Navy guy style tattoos or whatever, the Eagles or whatever.
Yeah.
This guy's totally out of shape. And I'm like, tattoo still looks sick. So, hey, there you go. You know, sometimes you're like, what's it going to look like 10, 20, 30, 40 years now? Am I still going to look cool with a dad bod or, yeah, but, yeah, man. So, I don't know, kind of thinking about that, you know, get a little.
Yeah. I've always wanted to get one. One day I will. A blank canvas.
You could rock a tramp stamp. Don't let anybody tell you different. You could. I'm telling you right here now.
I've even thought about, just to get the first one out of the way, going to one of those tattoo conferences and just being like, tattoo something you've been working on me. Like, just put it on my arm or my thigh or something.
They do a lot of that. Like, people follow tattoo artists and they'll go there and they're just like, whatever you want. And I've seen some of these guys that will just take a marker and they just kind of like free flow and they'll drop some ink on them. And it's just like really, really abstract. Some of them turn out great, but it's like when you're committing to something like that, what if you don't like it?
They're like, oh, sorry, that wasn't my best idea. You know?
Hey, yeah.
But you got one.
You got it. It's yours. You own it. No, man. So all that kind of came from, right, hearing about a guy that went to the Amazon and got all of his tattoos. Like, he got a lot of his body done from all of his visions, and all of his tattoos were inspired from the ayahuasca. And like a year or two later, he's like, I fucking hate this. Like, get him off of me.
Oh, brutal. That's kind of what happened after my my first couple trips. I wanted this like crazy ass tattoo. And then I talked myself out of it. I was like, that's not a good one. It was like, I was going through that transition of like coming from, growing up biblical to like doing all this stuff and then realizing there's just like a whole nother thing out there. But I wanted
a goat head.
So I wanted this like, so think about that, right? So think of like a goat head or like a demon head coming from my back and then the head ending like right here. And then an archangel coming up this way with a spear and just like full force right up through the neck. Bam, right up through that. And that would all take place on the shoulder.
Well, by the way, that actually does sound like a pretty sick tattoo. There. I mean, if you get it done right.
It does sound like a sick tattoo. Because it would wrap all the way around from chest to back. But that was like that was my idea of a first tattoo.
Yeah, man. I mean, here's the deal. If you're going to have demons, wear them on your shoulder. Right? What trips me out,
that's an interesting.
Some of the festivals we've gone to, have you seen people that like will get these really, really fucking intense tattoos? Like chicks that do have the fucking goat skulls with like an upside down cross in their cleavage, or like guys that there's one guy in Tampa, super, super nice guy, such a sweetheart. I cannot remember the guy's name to save my life, but I was at a party with him. He's got a ton of face tattoos. I mean, the guy is tattooed fucking head to shoulder, right? And I cannot remember the guy's name. And so we're at a party, and I'm all fucked up, and people start taking mushrooms and ecstasy and whatever, and they're offering the lot to me, and I was like, actually, like, I'm good. It's a Sunday, and so I mean, it was impressive watching how hard they were going, but I'm like,
it must be hospitality.
I don't know.
Sundays is people's Fridays.
Yeah, they damn sure were, actually. Yeah, a lot of bottle girls and stuff like that. Anyway, so as the drugs start to set in, I noticed this guy. I don't think he had taken anything, and I just complimented his tattoos, and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man." And later in the evening, just watching the way he conducted himself, I was like, "This guy is so off-putting, so intimidating at first glance, right? Because of the tattoos. I mean, like really, really." High amount of coverage there. And towards the end of the afternoon, evening, whatever, I was like, this guy is such a sweetheart. And I just had to tell him, I was like, man, you are such a nice guy. Like, I'm sure a lot of people probably judge you for the tattoos or whatever, but like, I just want to tell you, like, just literally watching you, not talking to you that much, but like seeing the way you show up to the world, bravo, man. Hey, like, way to wear your colors and like way to just be who you are. the guy damn near cried. I mean, like the sincerity of which he like received that compliment and like what he said.
Yeah.
You could just tell, man. It was just like him trying to be him, right? Just living his life, right? He was like, hey, this is just who I am. And so it's interesting how tattoos, something like a tattoo, like what someone wants to express on their body, it can really influence how we think of them off the gate before we even know who they are as a person, right? I think there's a lot to unpack there, but I don't know, that was just something that...
Like, I've definitely been at a music festival and saw some guys with Alex Gray, like full like chest to arm Alex Gray tattoos, and you're like, that guy's pretty chill.
Or it's the bald
Like,
guys for
that
me
guy.
that have like something on the back of their head, right? Whether it's like a hand gripping the back of their skull or like an eyeball with the spear through it. Those ones when I'm
Eyeball ones.
when
crazy.
I'm tripping, I'm like, all right, Tony Hawk, this is this is a lot.
Move over to this guy with a tattoo of just the infinity symbol.
Yeah. The guy with the squares and the Salvador Dali stuff going on over there. Yeah.
Yin and yang guy. Go over to that.
Now I've seen a lot of guys out of Australia from this Ink Master show. There's like a studio I follow there that does fucking incredible work, like the infinity, like flowing, abstract, geometrical shit. It's just like, man, I'd love to have some of that stuff, but I wonder if that would be like the equivalent of I feel like that piece would age well, but also be a bit of a man bun. Like you would be able to capture the era looking at some of that
Sure. Yeah.
pretty
yeah.
well. I think there's also something to be said for those kind of tattoos. Like I like that when
It's like chicks getting a bird
swallow.
or the peace sign or something on them, or an avocado.
What's like the worst tattoo you think you've seen?
The worst tattoo. I don't like calf tattoos.
Don't like calf
I think
tattoos.
those are interesting, but yeah, sometimes they could look cool. But
No,
I don't know why.
So when you say calf
them.
tattoo, like does right here constitute as a calf tattoo, or you're talking the
No,
meat?
like right on the back, right
Right,
in the meat
like the
of calf,
drumstick
yeah.
of the calf, not like
Yeah, which it makes sense because it's a good canvas. Like
yeah.
there's room
I mean,
to do it there.
I don't disagree with that
I've
at
just
all.
never seen really good.
I
I just don't really ever see good ones.
never.
there. Yeah, maybe that's what
Yeah.
it is.
I would tend to agree.
Like I feel like a good calf one would be like if you see sometimes where they're unzipping the skin and it looks like you're peering through, but you never really see that there.
Well,
It's
then
always
you'll
like
get one of those
eye
cheesy
or something.
ones with the shock, right? It's like the mechanical, like you see some of the flesh, and then you see like the robot leg thing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm
yeah, I'm like,
Terminator.
come on. So did you hear worst place or worst tattoo? Because I would.
Worst tattoo. I don't know. I try not to like really mentally harp on like a worst tattoo, even when I don't like them, just because like that puts me in a mentality of when I get a tattoo, people think that's the worst.
Well,
tattoo.
here's the best part about the worst tattoo. It's completely subjective. Like, I'll give you a great example. I was walking into
Exactly.
Publix talking shit about a guy who had the Air Jordan logo on his neck. I was like, fucking idiot. Look at that, dude. Look at that Air Jordan. And Luke looked over him. He goes, you have a fucking triangle on your arm. I was like, all right.
Good job, Luke.
You got me. You got me.
There was my buddy in prison that he asked me to send him because I was just pen paling him, and he asked me to send him the Grow Flow symbol or like company,
Grow Flow.
the Florida one.
Oh, no.
It
Not Salt Life,
float.
but
It's not Salt Life. It's like Florida
Flow
Grown or
Grown.
something.
Flow
Grown, not
yeah.
Grow Flow. Flow Grown. And I was like, hey, man, there's better options out there. I'll send it to you, but I'm going to try to talk you out of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right up there with the swastika. Yeah.
I saw some of his stuff, though. He had some good – he'll come on for sure once he's out next year. But he
What a plug.
had he had some pretty neat tattoos for sure. That I was like, you got that done in prison? He's like, yeah. Like, there's some guys that know what the hell they're doing.
For sure. And have you seen how they make them, by the way? Like,
yeah, he told me about it. Like how they were just like piecing parts together and got like a motor from this other thing to make it.
Super cool, man. It's super intriguing watching them put all that shit together. And necessity is the mother of all innovation, I suppose. Right?
Yeah. I was asking, like, they never get caught, and they were like, the people, the guards don't really want, that's like a gets people in good not good behavior, like in a good mind frame is the tattooing. So they're like, yeah, we just kind of leave that one alone. Let people, the tattooing guy's not stabbing people with the tattoo gun. So
right.
They're like, we'll let that one usually slide.
They do document the shit out of the tattoos, though. That is a thing. So they let the tattoos slide, but they document like all of the tattoos on inmates. I mean, I think for federal inmates, right? So not like jail, but prison. Something about that. I don't know. My brother would know better about that.
Just because they're gang symbols, they got to track it. Like which person? Oh, you put this on your body. Now we know you're in that gang.
I mean, it's astounding. We got to get my brother back on here. The amount of drugs that flow through prisons is unremarkable. I mean,
people would be tripping balls in prison. I don't understand that one. Like, I get it. You got to have you got to get away from it for a bit. But man, that would be a tough one.
The only thing that like I've ever really struggled. We started to talk a little bit about this before we were recording, but like using drugs as a numbing agent. I mean, is kind of, we weren't talking about this, but this is something that segued in my head of like, that's the best flag you could use for what's going on in your life that needs some help or change to be made. Right. Like the moment that I personally have never struggled with alcohol. Like for me, that's an easy one to point to because nicotine, I think, is something that I've had like a abject relationship with, like dipping in high school. And after a certain point, my tonsils would flare up. My throat would get really irritated. And the payoff wasn't worth it anymore. Right. Same thing with the e-cigs. At a certain point, for like a day or two, it's cool. The nicotine's got you, but then whatever else is going on, it just something. And I'm just like, all right, it's not worth it. Alcohol is like way more pronounced than that to me. If I'm hungover the next day, like once I get into like 2 or 3, God forbid, 3 days of drinking at this fucking age. I mean, you're pushing through, and
the next 2 days are really just to hold off the first day's hang.
There's no real off ramp. It's just, so I've never been able to envision myself as an alcoholic addicted to alcohol. But I have a buddy that, we were talking about something on the way to me going camping, and he brought that in. He was like, man, he's like, that's the one thing that's got me by the hook, got me by the balls is alcohol. I'm like, how? Yeah. As he's cracking a beer, right? I'm like, fucking
I have no idea. Yeah, as I've gotten older, I have realized that alcohol, like I definitely found myself in college drinking, being gluttonous on alcohol, just to party, have a good time, didn't care about the taste, just get fucked up. And as I got older, I saw the weight that I put on from that. So, okay, first realization, pull back on that, and then realizing, oh, it's tough to pull back on this. Okay, let's move to vodka or high noons. Let's get out of the high calorie stuff. So from there, and then also realizing that what we were talking about the other day, how I like always think I'm right, and I'll be fucking on it, right? That's like 100 times more when I'm drunk, right? And I turn into a complete asshole when I do that. Unfortunately, like it's just unfortunate. It's something I've realized, and so I try to not let myself get to that point anymore, which means I've learned to resist. But when I started doing that, I realized, like I have a little bit of an issue because it's a little tough. There's a little bit of a pushback for my mind to be like, no, have that next one. You'll be fine. And so I learned to overcome that. But that was just interesting to see, because I was being so gluttonous on alcohol through college that my mind had built up this like habit of being okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, for sure double click on that coming from Panama City, where it's just so accepted at a young age to drink. And then honestly, like when I went to college, I felt like I was drinking less for a good period and, you know, more. But I think the weight of holding down studies with a job created a little bit of a wedge.
Yeah.
And so I can understand how people would choose numbing. And I understand that, you know, everybody's got a different flavor for their vices. It's just alcohol is just a very interesting one to me.
I've definitely found sometimes when I want to drink, I'll take an edible instead, and then I'll be fine. Like, oh, I just needed to relax for the day. And instead of having a drink, which is pretty unhealthy, I go and take an edible, and it really just clears my mind to really calm my day out for the rest of the evening, because it's really just taking off a lot of the other.
Have you ever found, like, if you're really stressed out about something, I've experienced this personally this past week, where I wasn't able to necessarily identify what the stressor was, and expressing to my partner, I was like trying to piece it together. I'm like, what am I so stressed out about? Like, what's going on, right? And potentially maybe should have utilized therapy, but even being able to put your thumb on something and then express it relieves a tremendous amount of stress, especially if you have something that's pent up between a person and you're not expressing that. It can be an amazing trigger for numbing in a vice, and something like alcohol or, you know, just smoke. I know quite a few people that use cannabis as a numbing agent. And I'm like, man, you know that old Zyrtec commercial where, you know, someone's like walking through the garden or whatever, and then all of a sudden they take a Zyrtec and like the film of life, like they peel it back and they're like, I can breathe, right? It's like when I'm high, I feel like before Zyrtec. You know, it's like life's like some parts are sparkly, some parts I'm really enjoying, and some parts are just like foggy. I feel kind of dumb. I can't picture myself wanting to go through my waking state every day just ripped.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. Like the wake, like I enjoy a wake and bake. Don't get me wrong. On a
Sure
Saturday morning, yeah, let's wake up, let's go.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good day. But like the ones that wake up and smoke and then go to work right after that, I get myself in a fog if I did that.
Right the day off. I went to a buddy's party the other night, and this was a really interesting mind experiment for me, because I don't typically smoke in social settings because I turtle up, but they had CBD cigarettes, herbal cigarette things, and I was like, yeah, that's different. I'll try that out, you know. And so they had like these different forms of CBD, and I'm like, this is cool. This is fun, right? At some point in the evening, and I probably had 4 or 5 White Claws at this point, I get a CBD joint, and I'm like 4 or 5 tokes into it. I'm like, dude, this is the strongest fucking CBD I've ever had. I mean, I was like, holy shit. And then about 10, 15 minutes later, I was like, I'm fucking high as goddamn camel dick right now. Like, this is rocking my world, man. And sure as shit, the next day my buddy texts me. He goes, by the way, you remember those CBD joints last night? Texted my buddy that gave them to me. He said, no, that is the finest herb that you can hydroponically grow. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? I was like,
You did. Well, after you spoke 3 of them.
Fucking car, and I was like, dude, I'm driving a fucking spaceship right now. But I was like, I'm fine. I was like, I didn't drink that much. You know, we were there for a long time. I just smoked CBD. I was like, we get pulled over. Like I can drive. And so I'm
On
like,
the speed
everything's
limit.
fine. I was just like, no, I was high as fucking shit was the problem. So watch out for what's in your CBD, I suppose. Shit.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. There's definitely people out there that gets them up in the morning. They're good to go, and they'll go crush the day. I've seen people do that too. Like that one guy that was with us at Red Rocks.
Oh yeah,
and he was just he smoked like 10 joints within like a couple
he
hours.
Smoked an ounce, and that's not including the edibles. In the time we were there, I don't remember how many days we were there. 4 or 5 days.
And he was totally coherent, fine, had a normal conversation.
Never seen anything like it.
It's like, dang. Never seen anything like that before. That guy was
We
just
had some
going.
really great conversations with him too around like, hey, we did definitely edged in. Hey man, are we feel like we're numbing here? And he's like, oh yeah, for sure. It's like,
He's like, oh yeah, we started that a while ago.
speaking of numbing, I'm gonna time out here. I gotta use the bathroom.
All right, I'll just.
I mean, you
Talk
can,
to
or you can
myself
stop and we can clip this, whatever you
alone.
want.
All right, I will talk to myself here for a little bit as we go through the process. Actually, we'll just clip it out, pause it. And that's the power of editing, folks. And we're
Every
back.
time.
Works every time when you make it happen.
No.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Glenn. You're the best, Glenn. Yeah, all that talk of beer and vices and whatnot. I couldn't help myself to nice hard kombucha.
There you go. I got to fly first class for the first time ever.
When?
On a plane coming back from my company trip.
Going to California?
Coming back from California. So it turns out if you do a red eye, they'll let you do first class on the way back because they're like, so sorry about that. Go ahead and do first class. And that was cool. And they just keep feeding you alcohol. They're just like, you want snacks? You want food? Whatever you want. Here you go. Just
It's the best, right?
They're like, you want more beer? We'll give you more beer. And I made the rookie move. Stupid first class rookie move. So I had the inside seat, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, there's 2 seats on the Delta flight. I had the inside seat, and there's way more armrest room, you know. You could put your drinks down there in the middle and everything. And I freaking, you know, I'm not used to having something there. And I came back to my seat, and I turned my butt around to sit down in the seat and knocked all my beer down into my seat.
At least it was your seat, right? I mean,
yeah. Thank God it wasn't like the person next to me. And the guy next to me was super cool about it. He was like, "Oh, it smells a lot better here now, though." Like, sure does, buddy.
Is that? Did you come back from that last night? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that I am. That's
What
why I was
time
like,
did
I am
you leave
exhausted.
there and get here?
My flight was left at 10 o'clock, and we landed at 9 o'clock.
You landed at
morning.
9:00 here.
Yeah, because I had a layover in Atlanta, and we were delayed leaving Atlanta.
Ooh, did
by
you
like
sleep on the
30
plane
minutes.
at all?
A little bit from Atlanta. I did it from San Diego to Atlanta because I just was like, I don't want to like fall asleep during my first class experience, you know. And I was just like, I kind of want to enjoy and see what it's about.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really sleep. I was just excited to be in first class, which was pretty cool. And I just watched movies. I got to watch John Wick. Hell of a good movie. I got to watch the first one. That was cool while just getting loaded on some beers. Like, oh, this is pretty nice. The seats aren't as comfortable, though. You just get more armrest room.
I've said this plenty of times. I think I prefer business comfort over first class.
Their seats looked a lot more cushiony.
It's not just the cushiony, it's the screen thing. So they got the screen thing up there instead of down here because it comes out of like the center console in first class and like pivots over in front of you. It's the angle of where that little screen thing's at that I really appreciate.
Well, this one was in front.
Oh, was
first
it?
Class. Yeah, this one. Well, I was also 1A seat, so I had the wall right in front of me.
Yeah.
So maybe that had a difference, but I was thinking about it with same thing with hotels, right? So everyone thinks the suites are like the less used hotel rooms, right? Like the dirtiest rooms in a hotel are usually the suites because everyone that's in the point system wants an upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So every night you're giving out upgrades. And that room is going to be used every night, unlike other rooms. So the suites are usually the dirtiest rooms when it comes to like cleanliness of the hotel. So if you think about like a first class seat, the cushion on that one's going out way quicker because those seats are used a lot more than the back ones.
Yeah, I think a plain cushion's getting a pretty shitty deal all the way around, though. Mm-hmm. You know, I've only flown first class twice, and you know, on one trip, I think it was actually flying out here to see Abby when I was visiting Austin on the way to an event in Sedona, and I did that. It was pretty cool. The other time, I'll share that story another time. The other flight. So yeah, I mean it's pretty cool. You know, I don't know if it's necessarily worth. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It's like a mindset thing, right? Like some people are like, my previous mentor, he's like, I only fly first class. For him, it's like a thing, right? What I don't like about the airline industry is how much it's like the hotel cards, the point system, and the fucking having this and the upgrades and doing all that wiggly jiggly shit to make sure you're getting first class all the time. That's the only thing. I'm like, man, can it just be pretty straightforward on like you pay this amount and that's it? All these reward things and you got to be in the queue of whatever and they'll notify you.
Well, that's
check
what
in
it
an
is.
hour before the
You could-
flight and I'm done. That's where
You could pay for first class or try to hope you get the upgrade.
Well, it's if you go through, if you're like a member of this reward system thing, you'll get priority status for that upgrade should it happen to be available. And that's the thing. I've never played that game. I've just never. And typically on a flight, if a flight costs me $400, the first class upgrade is going to be what, like $230, something like that, $170 usually. I'm like,
Depends. Yeah.
I don't really value it that much. You know, I just kind of want to. I do
I don't
like
know.
the
I
fuck
like
out
it.
of the extra legroom though. I will fuck with
I
that.
do. I play it with Marriott. I like doing it with Marriott. I've gotten up to gold status. I'm trying to get to platinum, and you do get the upgrades, and you get a lot of other benefits. On
It's
top
worth
of
it. It's I'm not
Yeah,
contesting
like-
that. It's worth it.
On flights, I don't know how much it's worth, like committing to an airline, right? Like I usually just go who's got the best price at that point. Hotels are
It
usually
depends
pretty
if you have
standard
like
pricing.
a dedicated. What do they call it?
Well, that's why business travelers are always mostly the ones that are using a specific airline because they're not the ones paying for it. They're like, oh, cool, I'll just get Delta every time and build up my points.
I forget what it's called. It's like a dedicated airline or whatever for like I think Tampa is Delta or Southwest, one of the two. And so if you like, I had some kind of card for a year or two when I was traveling a lot, and that thing was the shit. I had all of the Admiral Club and the different club things and all these that was fucking tight because I was traveling a ton. And so honestly, I would look for layovers if it's a flight time of 7 hours versus like or 8 or 9 hours or 10 hours. And you could look at the flights and some of them would be cheaper, maybe at $200 cheaper. And the layover is about an hour or two longer. I would just go to the Admiral's Club or whatever lounge, take a shower, get some cookies, and I'd bring somebody from either my buddy or somebody from the gate. I'd be like, hey, do you want to come get a bunch of free beer and food? Fuck yeah. I mean, so many strangers, dude. One poor chick before in Mexico, her boyfriend left her right before the airport, like didn't show up to the airport for the vacation.
Oh no.
Chicks like crying in the gate area or whatever, and me and my buddies were like, hey, do you want to come get like some drinks and some food and whatever. We just talked to her for a sec. She's like, yeah, I'd really like that. Girl starts having a breakdown at the bar, and we're like, hey, check it out, you still should go on the vacation and let's just get fucking turned. And we turned that whole lounge up, dude. I mean, this chick went from crying to having the time of her life to fucking devastated and crying again, man. She got on that plane and she was in a fucking hole. It was terrible. But, for the 15 minutes that we got to really spend together, the hour or whatever, it was a time. It was great.
It was a good time.
I mean, what are you gonna, it's like, I'm not
roller coaster.
gonna make this seem like it's a, movie with a happy ending though. It was pretty shit. But she slept the whole way to Mexico, so, good for her.
I've been seeing a lot of people complaining that the lounges are way too packed now. Like people will pay the money to get there. Yeah, like the American Express lounge is like a lot of times pretty swamped. The Delta one's pretty swamped a lot.
The only thing I see people complaining about is Austin Airport. You better appreciate what you have in Tampa, son. That's my favorite airport. Out of all the airports I go to.
The Tampa one?
Tampa's
the
my
Austin
favorite.
one seemed nice. I was there. I did a layover.
Once you get in.
Oh, so mine was a layover, so I guess I was already in.
Dude, the lines are atrocious. It's paying for TSA pre-check. I thought you had to do it every year because I had a credit card that offered it, and I didn't even take them up on it. You only have to do like once every 5 or 6 years or whatever, and best money I've ever spent. Best
Me too.
money I've ever fucking spent. It's already saved my ass like 2-3 times. A little bit of arrogance folded in there for sure. Knowing, right?
So the I don't know why, but you know how when you check a bag, and if your bag gets randomly checked, they throw in that little TSA thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's happened to me more times than I think it should. So I have collected the little TSA things, and now I put it on top of my bag. And so this past one, I was coming back from San Diego, and I had 4 on top just laying in there. And I see normally they don't do this, so I think they did this because I put the 4. I got my bag back, and it was zip tied. And then I opened it up. There was one laying on top. And then I unzipped the other part of my bag. There was one laying on top of there. And then I pulled out my laptop, which was tucked underneath, and they put one in there too.
Aw.
They were like,
that's cute.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
They went and just threw them all in there to different spots of the bag. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny. So now I've got 7. I'm going to throw
Oh, they gave you the 4 back too.
Yeah, they gave me the 4 back, and they kept the other 3 and gave me 3 additional ones. So I'm just going to keep stacking them in the bag and see how far we get with that.
Yeah, I've done a really good job collecting. Every festival we've gone to, I've collected candy and memorabilia and stuff like that. But one thing I wish I would have kept track of when I started at 17 going to conferences and hotels, I used to keep the hotel keys. And I really wish I would have wrote down where I was at, like, what was happening and kept track of that. I mean, it'd probably be a fair amount of shit to lug, but,
I take hotel hangers.
Fuck, I knew you'd say that. You would be the type.
I take hotel hangers. They don't.
What's the strangest thing you've taken from a hotel?
The hotel hangers. Yeah, for sure. Like that's
it. You've never stolen from a hotel?
That's the only thing. Yeah, I'm not taking any other stuff. It's all crap and like heavily used.
Base.
Hotel hangers though are nice wooden hangers that like how often are they're used but not super often, and I know the hotels aren't keeping track of how many hangers are in each room.
Oh, they sure do. Hey Nick, if you're listening to this, if you still have that telephone, can I get that? Can I get that? I don't know if back is the right word here, but if you're not using it, yeah.
Stole a telephone.
Shout out to the Renaissance.
I did see an Alexa in a hotel. I did see Alexa in a hotel room not too long ago. That was pretty neat.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
So
you would think that Amazon would have a real invested interest in getting those into every hotel room across the nation.
Yeah, you would think so. I've only seen it in one. It was a new hotel built in San Francisco when we went. It was like a loft, and they just added those in there, which makes sense. It's like a lofts or newer age hotels. Let's put those in there.
I like those. Those are trendy. Those are fun. The one in Tampa is really cool just to go hang out. I've been to a lot of networking events at a loft.
XYZ bar.
Yeah, and they got the cool art hanging out. Yeah, every time I go there, it's just a cool vibe. I don't stay at hotels a lot, though, anymore. I think there is a resurgence happening with people really enjoying hotels because of Airbnb,
for sure.
Like service fees and experiences. And I think the novel.
And businesses aren't going to pay for Airbnb. There's business travel is picking back up. They're going to do hotels. It's just the way to do it. Because now if I'm a business person, I don't want to clean up the house. No. Leave the hotel room.
I think it's the streamlined experience as well for the business owners. When you think about corporations, like when I travel, our business will typically do Airbnbs. I prefer an Airbnb, if I'm being honest, because of the kitchen, like being able to make food if I want the food. That is kind of probably the only thing for me. And having like a yard, it just kind of depends. Like if I'm between a condo and a hotel all day long, right?
Yeah,
but
I like it for the unique experience. Or like going up to Asheville, right? We got a pretty nice cabin up there, up in the mountains. You're not going to get a hotel up in the mountains.
Yeah.
Up there, definitely get Airbnb. I like those experiences for that. But if I'm going to a city, I'd rather get like a unique hotel type. You know, they got all these chains now have like the autograph hotels, the design hotels where they're getting a little bit more trendier with them.
Mm-hmm.
I like going to those and checking those out instead of going to like a standard Fairfield.
Have you stayed at like I'm trying to think of the place in Atlanta. Piedmont? No, that's just like a famous place. Wow, dude.
Last time I stayed in Atlanta, we went to the Ritz. We got a sweet deal for the Ritz.
How'd you like the Ritz in Atlanta? I stayed in the one in Miami.
It was okay. It wasn't like it was definitely good service, and the rooms were good, but it wasn't like a Sarasota Ritz, Carlton. You know, it wasn't anything like that. But it was nice. Don't get me wrong. Service was great, high level rooms and stuff. But it was also kind of coming out of COVID too, so they were probably struggling a little bit.
I can't think of the name in Atlanta. We stayed at this boss ass place. Same group of friends.
Weston was cool.
What is it?
Walking into that, the Weston, the tallest building basically in Atlanta.
Have you eaten at the Sundial in Atlanta?
No, we tried to go, but it was booked up or closed when we went.
Yeah, I think they don't do the spinny spin thing anymore. You know, the restaurant at the top used to rotate.
Why wouldn't they do that anymore? If that's what they're known for.
A child's skull got stuck in it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Why they wouldn't do that anymore.
Dude, I was like, I'm laughing at it, uncomfortability. Honestly, I read that because like I had one of the most beautiful experiences at that restaurant. I think it was my some kind of celebration dinner because that's where we used to have our conferences for Cutco. And there's just this picture that I used to have in my little demo book selling knives. And I showed it to every single one of my customers from that evening. We like set goals and just like this beautiful camaraderie. And as the restaurant's like rotating around, the sun's setting on the skyline, it was just like this really, really beautiful moment. So like my heart aches for like the family's toddler wandered off. And I think there was just some part that was, I mean, they had all kinds of preventative measures, but it was a toddler, right? And so they like, found a way.
Yeah, found it.
And something. And they stopped it in time. So he didn't get crushed, but it fractured his skull. And then the...
too close to call. Too close for comfort.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up the hotel that it's like really famous in Atlanta for... Anyway, I mean, yeah, there's nothing like staying in like a really, really bougie place, though, right?
Oh yeah, when we were in Hawaii, we stayed at the Four Seasons. Holy cow, that level of service and hospitality. I've never seen it anywhere else. Like if you were to take like your best hospitality workers and put them all in one place, that seemed like where it was for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there was like a lot of celebrities. I can't find that fucking thing to save my life.
Yeah, there were celebrities staying there while we were there. There was people, we saw them post about the Four Seasons later on because you post about it in your
You're gone.
socials, and then it starts popping up a little bit more in your socials. So we got to see like people staying there afterwards. That was pretty neat.
Yeah,
the whole experience. I was in Oahu. It was right next to the Disney Hotel, so it's just funny seeing like the Four Seasons, all like adults, some families, and then just seeing the Disney side, just like screaming kids.
Mickey comes in all
like
worn out.
Parents are just passed out drunk in the chairs while their kids are just playing out in the water.
I'll tell you, we'll end it with this, man. I got the RV picking her up tomorrow. So anybody in our community here, if you know anybody that has Burning Man tickets, we actually still need them. So
yeah, still trying to get those. We even upgraded to 1500 on the website and still haven't gotten it.
Yeah.
Which is surprising.
So we'll be coming to you. We'll be coming through a city near you. I mean, if anything, the way I looked at it from the forums, they said, hey, if you commit all the way, the chances are very high that you'll be going. Worst case scenario, you have a really cool trip. So, yeah, I mean, regardless, we're going to have a great time. But
we're going to make it happen.
So
sure.
Just to spend a couple minutes on, I didn't tell you about the loan. So when I went to the bank, I got pre-approved for $30,000, right? found an RV, renovated it. I think I sent you the pictures. Yeah, I sent you the listing. Cool,
Yeah.
right? They renovated it.
Yeah, it looks cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see
it's
it.
super neat. And I went and checked it out. I was like, okay. The guy put a lot of work into it. He paid appraised value, put $7,000 into it. Really nice guy too. You know when someone's like kind of trustworthy and like shooting you straight on stuff. If he didn't know an answer, he just told me. And so, long story short of it, I went back to my bank and they were like, oh yeah, the interest rate might change a little bit based on, you know, the age, and it's outside of 10 years. So they fucking went from 4.5%, which I was like, okay, hey, that's pretty good. Like I have 2% interest on my truck, to 8.5%.
Oh.
And so I was like,
What?
all right.
Hey.
I mean, so I looked at the payments and I was like, whatever. I'm only intending on carrying it for a couple months. You know, if it's not cash flowing on outdoorsy or whatever, not a big deal, right? So that's nominal. Yeah. And so I was like, okay. And then she was like, well, so here's the fastest way we can do it. You just come into a branch and we get it done same day. I was like, yeah, well, I'm out of state now. I live in Texas. And she was like, oh, well, then it's going to take 7 to 10 business days. I was like, why?
Why? What's the difference?
Yeah. And she was like, well, to get the documents together, it has to go through underwriting, da-da-da-da. And I was like,
doesn't it still have to go through underwriting?
I tried to help her understand the logic. She was like getting kind of frustrated with me. She's like, sir, I don't know. I'm like, hey, that's fine. When you say I don't know, that's cool. You know what you know. You told me what you know. Fair enough. And so I was like, what if I just fucking pay cash for it and refinance with you guys? And she was like, oh, yeah, I guess you could do that. I was like, okay. She's like, yeah, if you have that in the option. I was like, yeah, I'm not buying an RV because I'm strapped for cash. Like, that's not exactly like, it's not a fucking priority in my life. It's like buying a goddamn boat. You don't get an RV to save money.
I don't need this RV to get to work.
Yeah, no shit. Good. So, yeah, I'm going to go pick it up tomorrow. And when I tried to get it insured, I called Geico. And they're like, yeah, if we even sniff that you rent this thing out one day out of the year, we'll drop you. So you should go with Foremost. They're our partner. Get in touch with those guys. And was super straight with the guy. And I fucking forgot something one of my old insurance, client of mine that owned an insurance brokerage told me, tell me the minimum amount of information you can. He's like, I'm your friend.
Wow.
Just tell me the minimum amount of information you can. And I forgot that talking to this guy. So at the end of our conversation, he goes, yeah, man, I'm not going to be able to insure you. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, based on what I'm getting a couple of red flags. I was like what? And he's like, well, this is going to be used for business. I was like, I'm going to fucking Burning Man in 2 weeks. Like, yeah. What are you talking about? And he said something else. And I was like, here's the deal, man. I've been a part of a lot of businesses, created a couple of my own. No one's ever approached me and been like, you know, a business that you should get into, really cash flows pretty straight. RVs. Like, I get there's dealerships. I was like, one fucking RV. I was like, I told you I'm entertaining the idea. And he's like, yeah. I was like, all right, cool, whatever, man. Have a good day. Call another guy, a brokerage here in Austin. And
yeah,
I just remembered what my buddy told me. And I was like, I'm going to tell him the minimum amount of information. He picked up on it pretty quick. He's like, do you intend on renting this? And I was like, yeah, man. Just personal. And he goes, all right. If that changes in the future, you let me know. All right. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to get you approved first. Then we'll talk about it. I was like, all right, yeah, man, just give me the fucking paperwork.
Yeah, let's move it.
Let's
Got
go.
it. Got
Let's
it,
go.
sir.
So, yeah, man, excited for that, and we'll get some stuff together on that. But we'll be recording on the road, as you say, you know.
Well, we're recording next week, and then here still, and then it'll be the following week. I think we're recording.
Whatever.
On
It
the
all
road.
blurs together.
It all comes together. All right, everyone. Well, hope you enjoyed another episode of the Professional Hippies podcast. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. Share it with the ones you love. Share it with the ones you hate to make new friends. Love ya.
Peace.